Hey everyone, and welcome back. In the last few days, Funcom have released some information about the story and lore behind Conan Exiles, specifically covering the different factions, creatures, and locations within the exiled lands, as well as its mysteries. Now, a lot of the factions and creatures appear to be associated with specific areas on the map, so depending on the location, different NPCs will inhabit the area. For example, pirates will be along the bays and the coast, whereas bandits will be near ancient structures, and you'll also have cannibals that will be scattered all across the map. There were also a lot of hints regarding possible endgame scenarios such as ancient cities, where only the most equipped players will be able to survive, as well as the mysteries of the underground areas. Overall, the story of Conan Exiles is providing a lot of context to the exiled lands itself and what players can expect to find. It's important to note that a lot of the lore and story behind Conan Exiles is in reference to the Conan novels, so unlike a lot of other survival games, Conan Exiles already has a rich backstory to build its foundations from. And the biggest change that Conan Exiles is bringing to its world is that it's being built upon these existing stories and lore that have already been created from all of these books. No other survival game has actually done this to this extent, meaning there are backstories when it comes to certain games, but there hasn't been this much lore, this much story behind a game. So I'm going to get into the reasons as to why this is a change, or why it is a big change. So the fact that Conan Exiles has deep stories and lore to build its world from, it's actually an advantage for the game itself. So story and lore actually allow a game to build concepts and ideas of themes already set. So a lot of the details would have already been described and founded previously within the novels, and the game can take those aspects and build upon them through the art style, gameplay, mechanics, and level design. So what it overall means is that each of these different design aspects, so the themes, the art direction, level design, gameplay, it provides context and the purpose behind these different attributes in the game. So this is not necessarily to say that the story limits the overall development of ideas and features for a game, but it does provide structure on how the game should be constructed, sort of like a set of criteria. You'll notice that a lot of themes behind the Conan novels are centralized around brutality, very rich landscapes, dark magic, and a very barbaric world where no one is safe. And Conan Exiles is no different, so by borrowing a lot of the themes from the novels, an overall feel of the game is already established. Therefore, each concept of the gameplay, art style, and level design is continually referred back to the same question, which is, does it feel like a Conan game? And a Conan game is one being which matches the key themes and settings of the novels. But, as I was saying before, some survival games do not include stories or lore. Take DayZ for example. DayZ provides players with a world filled with zombies and other players, but there's no real description or reason behind why these zombies exist, or any reason as to why your character exists in the world. Your story is created from all the situations that you encounter within DayZ, and it can ultimately lead to many different stories occurring within multiple playthroughs. You'll never have a situation that's going to be the same. Generally, survival games have a basic story behind them, so they might have what's happened to the world to build context, but most of them don't really have any story at all. It's just a world that the players are in and a bunch of mechanics. And they primarily rely on the player to build their own stories and build their own reason to exist within this world. And that's what makes survival games so addicting, is that there's no linear path. So one of the risks of actually providing too much story is that when you provide too much context, too much story to a character or to your individual player, you can unintentionally revolve the entire story around that player. And this can be an issue in the survival genre because the story is not meant to revolve around the player. The entire point of a survival game is that you're a player in a world and you create your own story. You create your own objectives, your own purpose in this world. By establishing a story and by bringing in all these elements of a deeper meaning into the game, everyone starts to have a centralized focus in the game. So a lot of the natural aspects of PvP are sort of diminished because everyone has the same objective, which is to uncover the mysteries behind what's actually happening. And that's definitely a risk for Conan Exiles. However, from what all the developers have been saying, the Conan Exiles story and lore aspects of the game are going to be incorporated into the exploration and crafting. So by doing this, players are not directly influenced by the story, but it still allows a player to be immersed in its world. And the developers have mentioned in a number of interviews that the way they'll be incorporating the story and lore into the exploration side is through the environment. So different areas across the world will contain artifacts or pieces which refer to key parts in the story of Conan Exiles or in the exiled lands. They'll tell a story just through the environment, through the different locations that you go to. But also the items themselves actually have descriptions regarding their origins and their history and what they were used for. So the main objective that the developers are looking at is when they incorporate all the elements of the Conan novels into Conan Exiles, it's to primarily build immersion for the player by being able to draw the player into this world and completely immerse themselves in how Conan would survive in this very barbaric, brutal world. Personally, for me, I believe the addition of a rich story and lore into the survival genre is a good move. It's something that we haven't seen before, and it's going to definitely add a different flavor to the game. It definitely sets Conan Exiles apart from other survival games by allowing players to become more invested in the world and to give purpose to the variety of different gameplay mechanics and the overall environments. It's going to be interesting to see how other survival games adapt to meet the expectations and the ideas that Conan Exiles is bringing to the table, and whether or not these other survival games are going to be incorporating similar mechanics, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed the content, like and share the video. If you like all the videos that I've been producing, think about subscribing. There's going to be more to come. So what's your opinion on the stories and lore in a survival game? Do you think the player should create their own story, so the world is just a map and the player gets thrown in and they create their own purpose and story? Or should the game have stories and themes behind it, similar to what Conan Exiles is incorporating? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.